Bonn Park is supported by Full Circle Foods. At Full Circle Foods in downtown Kitchener, owners Sam and Julia believe in plant-based foods and zero-waste shopping. Their commitment to environmental sustainability guides their business, which offers locally sourced groceries and bulk foods, and they compost all of their food waste. They believe small independent businesses make socially and economically vibrant communities. Many of their suppliers are small-scale Ontario businesses like Fennings Organic Farm, For All Ice Cream, Eco Coffee, Millbank Cheese, Golden Hearth Bakery, and Henry's Tempeh. What's good for the environment is often what's good for you. Full Circle offers an array of organic foods, vegan offerings, and gluten-free products, most of which are free of the additives found in mass-produced foods. In the dairy section, you'll find butter, cheese, kefir, milk, sour cream, and yogurt. Over in the cooler, you'll find eggs, kombucha, hummus, spreads, dips, tofu, tempeh, and much more. Full Circle is making in-person shopping a safe and convenient experience with social distancing and capacity limits so the store is never crowded. There's a service counter for the bulk section where a staff person will scoop products for you. Full Circle is open 7 days a week with newly extended hours to serve you better. Full Circle Foods is located in downtown Kitchener at the intersection of Charles Street and Queen Street, just 1 block west from the Queen Ion Station. Or you can order online for curbside pickup at fullcirclefoods.ca. Follow them on Instagram at Full Circle Foods. Bonn Park is supported by Yoda Leather. For nearly 35 years, Evangelos Patrikas has sold fine leather products at the St. Jacobs Farmers Market. Jackets, coats, gloves, belts, accessories. If you want good quality leather, you can find it at Yoda Leather. Evangelos says Yoda Leather's longevity is attributed to their loyal customers, some of whom have purchased 2 or 3 jackets from them over the years. Customers trust Yoda Leather for classic but fashionable and reliable outerwear pieces at good prices, like their men's double collar style, a top seller for 35 years, old school leather biker jackets, or women's coats with real fur trim. Yoda Leather specializes in men's and women's plus-size leather outerwear pieces and also carries brand names like David Moore's Canadian-designed leather coats that come in a variety of natural colors and sizes. Looking for a great leather vest? Yoda Leather has them in a variety of styles and different leather types to suit your desirable look and need in men and women's styles. Evangelos will tell you he's made many friends over the last 35 years selling leather garments. Yoda Leather was the first business his family opened at the St. Jacobs Farmers Market back in the 80s. Just down at the other end of the Peddler's Village is his daughter Stella, whose family runs A Taste of Greece, serving up delicious and traditional Mediterranean cuisine. Over in the main building is Olive Divine, run by Evangelos' wife Yoda, specializing in fine olive oils and balsamic vinegars. When a family stays in business this long, you know they are dedicated to quality and service. Yoda Leather is located at the Peddler's Village at the St. Jacobs Farmers Market on Thursdays and Saturdays. Go check it out. We are supported by Mombella's Italian Kitchen. Mombella's has been providing Waterloo region with the wonders of fresh home-style Italian cooking since 2007. From succulent meatballs to classic cannoli, Mombella's creates flavorful frozen dishes that include traditional lasagnas, stuffed eggplant parmesan, and both chicken and plant-based veggie chili. Or take home Mombella's vegan tomato sauce or their gluten-free vegetarian lasagna made with roasted sweet potatoes, spinach, mozzarella, tomatoes, garlic, onions, and fresh basil. Do you like the salty tang of Parmesan cheese? How about picking up a 2-pack of Mombella's frozen chicken Parmesan, one of their most popular menu items, hand-breaded with marinara sauce and topped with mozzarella and Asiago cheeses. Along with pasta, lots of pasta, Mombella's is currently offering a select menu of their best sellers for takeout, like their famous toasted sandwiches and crispy wood-fired 12-inch thin-style pizzas. Mombella's must-try grilled cheese sandwich is made with 4 cheeses and toasted to perfection. And who doesn't love a BLT, especially with fresh ingredients on a toasted bun? Ona Tina Brisbane says Mombella's is incredibly grateful for the support of their community during this very challenging year. She's delighted that so many people and families are turning to foods like hers with quality and 0 preservatives. At Mombella's, food and family go hand in hand. And as the world begins trickling back to workplaces, Mombella's is available to provide catered lunches for business meetings and events. Drop by Mombella's at 160 Columbia Street West in Waterloo, Mondays through Fridays, 11:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. You're sure to find something to take home to the family or chow down on right away. Check them out online at mombellas.com or have their amazing food delivered. They can arrange this personalized for their customers. You'll see why customers keep coming back to Mombella's. And we bet that you'll keep going back too. Yummy!
Welcome to Bonn Park.
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 Welcome to Bonn Park. I'm Sara Geidlinger.
And I'm Marshall Ward.
And today we have Graeme Kobayashi.
Yeah, part 2 of our Counterpoint Brewing special on Bonn Park here.
Yeah, we talked to Rich last week, and this week we're talking to Graeme, and they are the partnership that is Counterpoint Brewing. Just a couple of really cool, down-to-earth guys who seriously nerd out on beer and know their stuff. Here he is, Graeme Kobayashi. Graeme Kobayashi, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We were just talking to Rich a couple of days ago, and it's kind of exciting to get the second half of the partnership in here to talk to.
Definitely the second half.
The second half. All right. I want to know how you and Marshall met.
Yeah, so over a year ago, I heard about Counterpoint Brewing from a teacher at the KW Bilingual School who knew I appreciated craft beer, and that I write for the Waterloo Chronicle, so I went and visited with Graeme and Rich at Counterpoint. Shortly after you opened, you had a big, successful opening, attended by lots of people and friends who supported you. And I had already been to several craft breweries over the years, and the thing that really struck me about Counterpoint was these two young lads had such a clear vision of what Counterpoint was, along with making just incredibly delicious beer. I just loved the idea of their vision for their brewery and their branding, and the personal things they bring into it. So Rich talked on last time about the music component and his background. And I know, Graeme, you had worked in Scotland at a whiskey distillery.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Yeah, so we want to hear all about that. Take us back to that distillery.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago, guys.
Can't be that long
Well,
ago.
what were you doing in Scotland?
It was really a result of a couple of, say, my mom's cousins who still live in Scotland had visited our families. So they said that they would love to have us over there and sort of return the favor, and that they, might be able to get us a job at the distillery. So I ended up just, through, years of contact and saying, I think this is the right time to travel. Booked the trip and, talked to the distillery, and they said, well, we can't really, give you a job until you're here, because we've had people bail last minute. And I said, okay, well, I'll just get myself there. So, visa, booked a ticket, and that was the trip. So I was there, and luckily one of my cousins had a garden center there, so just worked with my roommate from college at the time. We worked there for a month or so, and then worked at the distillery. So yeah, we applied and got in there, and it was really, really cool. I mean, historical buildings. This is Glenmorangie Distillery, so one of the, if not one of the biggest ones in Scotland, and known pretty worldwide. So it was really neat to see the sort of the behind the scenes, and also how the business side of things was very serious, but workers being fairly casual and just everyday people. So it was really, really enjoyable, and obviously gained a bit of knowledge about working with barrels. Yeah,
like where do you start? Like on day one, like they just start teaching you how this all works?
Pretty much. I mean, we started off with a bunch of painting barrels and marking barrels and that kind of thing, and by the end we were able to do pretty much everything we needed to fill barrels, store them away, driving the tractor, bunch of maintenance. We had a few lessons on the stills as well, but we were mostly on the back end of warehousing.
Sorry, did you mention what part of Scotland that was in?
Yeah, so Glenmorangie's in Tain, which is the north of Scotland. It's up in the Highlands. Yeah, about an hour north of Inverness.
Okay. Inverness, I know from the Outlander show.
Oh, perfect.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And we understand you met Rich playing squash.
That's right. Yeah.
And anyways, I was really intrigued to hear Rich talk about how Rich had already been doing like home brewing for quite some time.
And starting to really get serious about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, at home.
And it sounds like you were quite kind of intrigued by the science and the art of it. Mm-hmm. And what do you remember about first learning about his process, and what was grabbing you about it? Like I look back to my teenage years, and I remember home brew was like somebody's dad, and the beer was like in like plastic bottles, like looked like pop bottles, and it wasn't very attractive at all. But we've come a long way since then, and probably whatever Rich was doing was much more.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. From what I've learned about Rich is anything he takes up very seriously and
very
learns.
Yes,
like absolutely.
I called him a beer nerd when he was here.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely.
He said it was a compliment. So
absolutely. If you're in the beer world, that's a compliment. Yeah, definitely. So that was one of the things that he's very much took upon himself to learn and learn all the intricacies and technicalities about brewing. So, he's a sponge. He loves to read, and he's a sponge. And so, my first interaction with him regarding beer was really just, having a beer after the squash game. And then, after a couple of games, I think he brought some of his own beer and I tasted it and I was like, well, this is like real beer, not just the stuff that, you were talking about your buddy's dad and
with stuff floating in the
pail.
bottom.
Yeah, exactly. Well, sometimes there's that, but it just depends on if it's the good stuff floating or the bad stuff.
Yeah.
Fruit flies versus, a bit of yeast sediment.
Like sediment,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he was making, an IPA and a stout and an amber and just a variety of things. And it was really good. So that really intrigued me. It was, that was shortly after I kind of got into beer through beers at the LCBO or beer store that, I tried kind of like that, roulette of beer where you go in and say, just try random ones and some you like, some you don't.
I had no idea you could make like a stout at home. Like I thought when you make beer at home, it's kind of like a Pilsner or
that would probably be one of the hardest ones to make, really, because you need, a fermentation chamber. And now there's a ton of homebrewers that are, I'm sure some have always done it, but you hear a lot more about people making fermentation chambers where that's like temperature controlled little fridge. And so you can brew, lagers and Pilsners that ferment them and age them
I had no idea you could do that in your home.
Yeah, you could do anything.
Yeah.
I guess if you know how to build stuff, that's the whole.
Yeah.
Right. If you're pretty handy and you know how to not everyone knows how to build stuff and put stuff together with the materials that they go out and purchase or stuff they can find around their house, right?
Yeah.
Or how to source those objects. So I think you have to have some of that know-how.
For sure. I think, and I see the two ends of the spectrum when it comes to homebrewing.
Right.
Sort of the character that is super thrifty, frugal and hands-on and can build everything. And then the other end where, there are so many toys out there now dedicated to homebrewing.
Right.
That you can buy whatever you want
And make it like basically a
state of the art
brewery in your garage.
Exactly. Yeah, state of the art little brewery system in your garage or your basement. Yeah, for sure.
I'm picturing something like Walter White would make with Jesse Pinkman.
Right. Oh, yeah. Exactly.
Just legal.
Just legal. Exactly.
So I think I read in your blog maybe or part of your beautiful website.
It's so nice.
Wow, that website's awesome.
We heard you're to credit for that.
Kind of
for all the tech stuff and the social media.
No,
no, not at all. I had nothing to do with that. Well, I mean, I know the guys who did that for us, so maybe that's how. But the
website's awesome. But it takes you right into your space, like
totally.
in a cinematic way. You get a feel for what you're walking into.
We worked with I had initially started a temporary website to hold that space on the internet, but otherwise we hired a couple of great branding guys that I've worked with in the past.
It's simple and it flows easy. So, sorry.
No, that's okay.
Who are they? Were you gonna say?
Fellows Agency. Yeah.
It's simple and it flows easy, and not all websites are like that, especially homegrown sort of small businesses, right? And it's a beautiful site, really.
Thanks. It's one of the first things people are going to see, and regardless of how new or small we are, we wanted to make sure that we look professional because that's how we feel.
Right. Good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think Rich talked about how Counterpoint was kind of 2 years in the making before you actually had your own space and ready to go, and you would have visited several other craft breweries in the meantime.
Just a few.
Yeah. What did you see in those, as you moved around? There's a guy in town I was telling Rich about named Kyle who's been to 150 of the 300 breweries in Ontario or something. And I find him fascinating. He'd be an amazing guest. Every weekend he's off to another brewery in Ontario. Anyways, what did you see in those breweries? Do you remember going in certain ones going, this looks kind of like what we'd like
definitely.
This looks like what we don't want, and
That was a huge part of as soon as I'd say, before we decided to make the jump and open a brewery, then, it wasn't as important, kind of a new space that I liked and places I like to go or try their beer. But it was, my analysis wasn't really as important until we decided to make that jump. So after that, every brewery I went to, or even, restaurants or bars would be, analyzed. So we kind of, I went through the process and picked out certain things that I liked, certain things that I didn't like. And Rich and I actually took a trip, I don't know if you mentioned this, to Grand Rapids before we opened.
Tell us everything.
Yes. It was a very crazy trip. It was really 2 days there, and we planned out this walk for 2 days straight, basically, of breweries we were going to hit. So we went to 15 breweries and a distillery on foot in 2 days, and we sampled 98 beers. Now, mind you, sampling, like really just a sip, and because we really wanted to try everything, see everything. And in that trip, we took notes. We were those like actual, beer geeks, I'd say, like totally in the corner, just like scoping everything out and being like, hey, what do we like here? What don't we like? And we saw a lot of things that were overdone. A lot of sort of that barn board, man cave kind of look was overly common, and then a lot of things that were sort of modern and clean that could still represent a nice comfortable space, but yet be a little bit newer, maybe sort of edgy. So we took a lot of that, like music being played, types of beers, all that sort of stuff. So took a lot in from that trip. It was really rewarding. And I mean, we tried a lot of beer, which was cool, but we timed, we drank a lot is ate our meals and got good sleep. Yeah.
Got great sleep.
Sure, something I imagine you didn't see that I think is probably unique is your vision for inclusivity. And your website talks about how like families are welcome and kids, and there's things there for them. And we're talking about everyone's welcome from all walks of life. And I think in a blog that you wrote, you mentioned, well, kids aren't supposed to drink coffee either, but they can go to a coffee shop. Why can't they come into this space? And I thought, wow, you probably have never seen that before, where a craft brewer is open to come on in with, your family, and it's okay.
Yeah, I think it's becoming a bit more of a trend. A lot of people would compare it to sort of, the UK where families go to the pubs and that kind of thing. But, aside from that, you mentioned really like a coffee shop, and you don't see too many 3-year-olds throwing down espressos. So in this case, we really just wanted to make sure that people knew that, they could bring their family, and it was cool. It's not a bar or a nightclub or a place to get, hammered, and it's really just a place to sip on some beer, enjoy, and
buy some to take home with you.
Yeah, exactly. There's that too, right? So,
or there are pubs where you walk in, it's all the regulars are there, and they all kind of look over you, like from a movie. Sure. They look over their shoulder, and it's like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, for sure.
We've all had that experience. Right?
I have to tell this story. We were at Ethel's once with our smaller kids, and in that corner table where there's now a TV above. Maybe that TV was there before, but anyway, in the corner table there, across from the bar. And my kids weren't being loud. They're pretty good. Marshall's met them, and this was a few years ago.
Yeah,
but
they would have been good.
They're pretty good, but they were playing something, and they had giggled a little bit for about 10 minutes. They were playing some game across the table with each other, whatever it was. And I don't know if anyone remembers this dude, I forget his name, but right at the end of the bar was somebody who held the bar up. He would always wear a suit, and he was always reading a book. And he gave us a look a few times, like, come on, this is like noon.
You're interrupting my reading.
You're interrupting my reading and my beer, right? Couple times, and I will only be bullied so much until I say something. So I think I ended up saying something very simple, like, what? Like something like that. And then Greg, who was the manager at the time, he's now a rep for Wellington, I think, came around and he's like, yeah, man, you're drunk at a bar at noon. They're trying to have lunch. And that was the end of that conversation. Good, but there should be a place for that, because typically the families are the people who are trying to get out in the middle of the day, especially on the weekend or out for the evening, something to do. And there should be something for the kids to enjoy, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, before COVID, obviously, and the fear of too many germs spreading, we've got a little basket of books and toys and stuff like that, try and keep kids occupied, because it's easy to forget what you need to do. And we still obviously promote sort of responsible parenting, and I have had a chat with, if kids are running around.
Just for safety.
Then for safety and
dear parents, your kids shouldn't be running around an establishment anyway.
Like that classic, unattended children will be provided a kitten and an espresso.
Yeah, just say a couple stouts and I don't know, a sharp knife. Make your own.
Whoa.
I was really thrilled with Rich generously really delved deep into the technical aspects, the science of making. He talked about sour beers and he talked about stouts, and I love this stuff. I can listen to it endlessly.
Good.
So for your learning curve, because it was really Rich leading the way here, and you were ready to partner up here and get serious about it. Lots of people must have conversations about doing this, but it never actually comes to fruition. But this was actually going to be a reality for you too. And what was that first year like for you in learning the science and art of making beer?
Yeah, so luckily, Rich was willing to, share his secrets with me and show me the process. So on a homebrew level, there was, it was a huge learning curve. I had a bit of a science background and just a sort of an interest in it. So it was great. It was actually really enjoyable to learn that side of things. Again, and then, the art of it, I'm not an artist. So that was a little more of a struggle to find, I love cooking and baking and stuff like that. But to really meld that together was more difficult for me. It seemed so natural for him. So it was really neat to learn and practice that on a homebrew scale. When it came, obviously there's a little more pressure when it comes to commercial beer, where people need to enjoy it for you to make a living and have a successful business. So, and unfortunately for me, Rich was brewing a lot because that was his forte, and for me, I was doing a lot of the back end stuff and some, I guess, more of the front of house stuff as well. So, which is a sort of a natural fit. So I didn't get to learn our system as much as, Rich had a handle on it. So it was really neat when I finally got to brew, to see, the whole thing scale up and, what it means. And it doesn't necessarily mean because it's, let's say 10 times the size of your homebrew system that you're going to do 10 times the ingredients or 10 times the hops or malt. So I really just I still follow his lead when it comes to it. I'll come up with some recipes sometimes if I feel like I want to brew, and he'll, make some adjustments to fine tune it and really tune in on certain aspects of the beer.
It's kind of like, when you send your writing to your good friend and you guys bounce the editing off of each other, sort of like you want to get that input from somebody that you trust. Right?
Yeah, definitely.
And
definitely.
And it's long when you have a mentor like that, you actually start to hear their own voice in your head.
Oh yeah.
Even when they're not there, you kind of know how they would say. And
exactly, You know what to expect when you say, hey, this is the recipe.
Mm-hmm.
So you're learning everything simultaneously. You're learning about hops, you're learning about barley, you're learning about yeast, you're learning about malt. Sorry, I may not even be using those words quite right because one thing leads to the next, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And you're learning them all simultaneously. That to me seems like incredibly complex.
Yeah, it can be pretty overwhelming. Anything about brewing really can be as complicated or as complex or as technical as you want it to be, or as you want to get, really. I mean, there's brewing where you can just put a few things together and you probably make a decent beer unless, you don't clean your stuff and then it gets infected and blows up or something like that. But otherwise,
no big deal.
Yeah, just a beer bomb, bottle bombs, the industry says.
Bottle bombs, okay.
You can go to that end of things where it's fairly simple with a few ingredients and you just throw it together. Or you can really get specific, and at that point, but it's a snowball effect. The more you learn and the more you want to get technical, the more technical it gets. And it just evolves. So
you said that you were doing some home brewing pre-opening up Counterpoint.
Correct.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
So what's that like when you finally brew one on your own and then you're sharing it with Rich? Are you a little nervous?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. I mean, and my first one was the kit, like a syrup kit, and you boil it with some water and then you add a lot of water and then you just let it ferment. And I was like, just give it a try. You got to do it. And like, wow, I brewed beer. And they're just like, yeah, you brewed beer, but you can brew beer if you want. So
it's like making chicken soup or opening up the package of dry, dehydrated chicken soup. Right? The two different, Yeah,
exactly. And then again, right, you can do it out of a can or you can get so many ingredients and create a recipe. So after, it was really, really cool that after a few different batches of beer, a couple that I created on my own, and I had some good feedback from Rich and honest feedback. Like he's very honest about, especially when it comes to beer.
Oh, yeah,
it's which is great to have. Yeah, exactly, which is what you need in a critic. And so a couple great batches, a couple that I knew because they were just a little bit crazy. We're not going to be that great, but they're still fun to make. And like I said, kind of, I'm glad I got to pass that stage in the homebrew phase, so that you kind of know that really what the focus is. When it comes to commercial beer is balance, and we can still be creative. I mean, we've had some fun recipes, and continue to I guess search for more creations inside.
Is barrel aged beer, so it's a barrel that had whiskey in it, I guess, right? Or something, it was brewing something, and then it's not cleaned out or something, and then beer is now made in there and aged. Is that how barrel aged beer works?
Yeah, I mean, you can have definitely that, where it's, whiskey's a huge one, especially when it comes to stouts. Wine barrels are great for saisons or sour beer or blended, red or white. And then,
so you buy that barrel from a distillery with the intent. You say, we need a barrel from you that you've made whiskey in, and now we bring it to the brewery. Yeah, and now that's how you do it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, right now it's a business now where they're sort of like barrel brokers or distributors. So they'll collect. Buy. Yeah, it is absolutely. It makes it a lot easier because they just have a list of whatever we want or need. There's other types of barrels that are sort of treated so that they're neutral again. Mm-hmm. So, but they're still what they are is a great vessel for your own creation. Again, like a yeast that you love, and you can just basically use it once. It's embedded in the wood, and you can continue to fill it, and it'll continue to ferment with that yeast or age with that yeast, and
like
give
a wooden
it a really
boat.
good character. It is,
right?
Yeah,
And you've got to keep it, I guess, I don't know, seasoned or wet or something so that it's oak, the barrel's oak, or it can be many things.
Yeah, most of them would be oak,
right.
American oak or French oak.
Because it's stiff, like hard material.
Yeah, they make the best barrels.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, for instance, we currently have, we have one that was used by Nickelbrook, previously used by Heaven Hill Distillery. So, it was a bourbon barrel. It became Nickelbrook's barrel for a couple of different beers. When it came to us, I mean, no bourbon in it, but again, just a great vessel for a funky beer.
With a history.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it's our souring barrel now, so we use it to blend in with other barrel-aged beers to give it a little bit of sour. Yeah.
We talk quite a bit about sours because I love sour beers.
Do you love sour beers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have is this considered a sour beer? You have it's called Lime After Lime.
Lime After Lime.
Yeah, that's a gose.
That's right, goza.
Yeah, but that's different to a sour.
No, it's a sour beer.
Okay.
Just a little bit more of a historical sour beer where, the original way that it was brewed ended up being a little more sour than your traditional beer, or I guess at the time it was the only beer. But yeah, it's a sour beer with salt, Indian coriander, and lemon and lime zest.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
So, yeah, the traditional coriander
citrus hits and
yeah.
What a wonderful world where you have something like that goes, and then you have I got this right? So the Black is Beautiful Imperial Stout was a KW collaboration. I guess these were being made all over, but that I could be wrong about that. Anyways, a collaboration between you, Block 3 Brewery,
TWB, yeah. Together We're Bitter.
Yeah, and then maybe another brewery.
Short Finger Brewing.
Short Finger Brewing, yeah. And then something else that has to do with bringing education about beer too. Sorry, can you help me smooth this out?
Yeah, I'll do my best again.
I'm having fun watching this.
Anyways, that it was a beautiful imperial stout, just called Black is Beautiful, and it's all about education too. Yeah.
It is, yeah, and it's so. Really, Black is Beautiful came about through Weathered Souls Brewing in Texas. They began this initiative after the death of George Floyd, and obviously, I guess the most recent revival of the Black Lives Matter movement, and did this collaboration and presented, provided the recipe and label art, free of charge to breweries worldwide. To anyone who wanted, to anybody who wanted to take part in it and try and make a difference in their own community. So really a lot of the beer, all proceeds, in our case all profits, and in this case all proceeds because we're covering the cost of the ingredients, are going to the African Black and Caribbean network in Waterloo region. And we really wanted to partner up with an organization who would really provide help to the grassroots organizations, community centers, communities, local businesses, or the
ground level stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. Really, where you can make a difference. There's a lot of donations that happen that I think can just sort of sound great, but you don't know where they go. And in this case, we know from previous work and discussions with them and research that they are very effective and can make some great change when it comes to not only just I would say supporting youth and people of color in the community, but also even advocating for those who've been wronged through the justice system.
Mm-hmm.
And how do breweries work together to create a beer? How does that happen?
Yeah, I mean, in this case, the recipe was made. This case was more of pooling our resources, volunteering our time, pitching in, sharing the cost to make one large batch of beer, as opposed to we could have all done it separately and made our own Black is Beautiful version. But again, working together, and also we found it to be thought it would be a really, really effective way to sort of get that message out there as well, a little more powerful. And
so the numbers, 4 breweries were all brewing the same.
We brewed at Block 3. Brewing together.
That's what I mean. So you all brewed at one.
In that case,
okay, gotcha. Okay, sure. I was trying to picture
how volunteered time together.
Yeah.
And, somebody took on bottling, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, canning. I mean, Block 3 did a lot of the work has to be done on. We bottle at ours, but Block 3 does the canning. But because it was on site there, they put a lot of work in over there. But we were able to share resources when it comes to
I love this idea,
media,
this camaraderie between local breweries, and how Rich talked quite a bit about how quick other breweries are to help out if you need something, and I think that's such an amazing thing, that rather than seeing it all as competition,
we were talking about how we're finding that in podcasting, that it's not us against you. Local podcasting is very it's a community, and people are willing to reach out and help each other, and it sounds like the brewery business is the same.
Beer is very much like that, which is fantastic. It was really heartwarming when we were kind of edging into the into the industry, and our first brewery that we really contacted to talk about, hey, can we do this? How do you do this? Any tips? That kind of thing was Jason Fisher at Indie Ale House, who we've read up on, and he's a very huge advocate for craft breweries and craft beer, and providing advice. He's openly said, I sit down with potential brewers all the time, and to reach out to him, and the first thing he said was, why'd you come all the way to Toronto? You've so many great breweries there that you could have just talked to. But it was one of those things where we were afraid to step on toes, or wouldn't be sure what it would be like, and everybody was just laughing at us after we told them that. So it's very much like that.
It's okay, you're in the club.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And I feel like that's with a more local business, and how there's a whole movement now, well, not now, but growing movement, I would say, to support local. Is that local businesses are willing to help each other. It's no longer as much of a competition that if you have, you'd like to think, if you have an organic food shop on the corner, and a few doors down there's another organic food shop, we can still work together. And it's the same as breweries. We have, within 10-minute drive, we've got 4 or 5 breweries from us, and people bounce around. They come visit us and visit other breweries. We send them elsewhere, and it's really friendly. We're loaning hops and borrowing whatever airlocks and whatever else we need. So
I forget what the story was, but you borrowed
I can't remember.
Temperature
flow meter.
Yeah,
flow meter.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I forget who that was from. Maybe Wellington or.
It was actually. Yeah, for sure.
But
for
the
sure.
same thing, right? You'd be like, no, that's my stuff. Go make your own beer. But that's not the community that we're talking about. Yeah, we've been very proud of how local business and just the local people have been supporting each other through this whole time. It's I know some people haven't survived. Some people are shutting doors because things maybe weren't going well beforehand, or maybe they're reaching retirement age or whatever. But especially businesses uptown too, where they've dealt with LRT and they're still fighting their way through keeping that business going during this whole thing. And you guys were able to adapt really quickly.
We were, yeah. Luckily, we had talked a bit about setting up an online store just as an added feature, I guess, or an added option for those to whether order online and pick up, or we're maybe toying with the idea of shipping out elsewhere. Although our system's so small that we were worried that might get out of hand. So we weren't ready for that growth. But had been toying around with it, and as soon as we had even before the decision had been made by the provincial government to close the doors, we closed our doors and said that this is the way we're going to do things and go 100% online. luckily, most people responded very well to it. A few people who call and we just made arrangements if they didn't know how to use the website. We took an order over the phone, that kind of thing.
Not everybody's on there, on the intrawebs.
I think the vans that drive around that deliver.
Yeah, I've seen
like
it.
Great advertising. In my neighborhood, I was like, Four Brothers Brewing. What's that?
Right.
Yeah. It's like I was on my own street going for a walk.
There were quite a few trucks in our neighborhood. I just assumed they were going to your house.
So I'm not sure how this works. So I think when I first came to Counterpoint Brewing, I tried a beer called Duet 2.
Okay.
And I can see you have a Duet 16. Which,
That's right.
So you must 16. Yeah. Is it like a recipe and a batch? But there's no. It's not going to happen where it's going to be exactly the same the next time. So it's kind of like this, like Sara said, like a series where Duet is back, but just because you like Duet 15 doesn't mean Duet 16 will be exactly the same. Is that how it works?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that was something we had in mind. That was one thing that's actually remained consistent. We don't have a flagship beer or staples, but Duet is the most consistent thing that we have running on our tap list. We wanted a beer that would be nice and drinkable, consumable, but yet still highlight 2 hops in this case. So we also have a series called Etude that is just a single hop IPAs. But with 16 duets now, and everybody has their favorite. I can tell you that people come in and say, "When are you going to make number 10 again?"
Yeah.
Or Block 3 has done this thing where they make this unbelievable like apricot sour.
Oh yeah.
That just amazing, right? And I always think of that Simpsons episode where Homer talks about eggnog. He goes, they put it in the supermarket for 2 months, then they take it away, right? And that's how I feel about some beers. It's like you must have had one-offs where people loved it, and then that's it. It's gone, kind of thing. Yeah. Coincidentally enough, our raspberry sour was a big hit. We had put that out, and I mean, it just looks great, right? It's just bright red. Yeah. Sour real fruit, and people will wait for that to come back. So how does real fruit work in a sour? Like Rich did a great job explaining how sours are made, but when it comes to fruity sours, are you buying up tons of raspberries?
Yeah, basically. Most of the fruit it's a split. We try and get real fruit when it's in season. If we can't, but we still want to brew it, then frozen fruit is our best option.
Which the health experts say is a great option in the wintertime anyway.
For sure. It's it's real. It's usually frozen quickly when it's ripe. So you're getting as much nutrient as possible at that point, and obviously as much flavor as well. So, and then for us, even if we get fresh fruit, we freeze it anyways to help kind of kill some bacteria. But as well, it breaks down the cellular components of the fruit. So then it, you get the juices flowing as opposed to just them being stuck in their cells. So you get much more effective flavor and big burst of flavor.
That's fun.
Yeah.
So you brought beers tonight.
I did.
What'd you bring?
For you guys. Whoop. I did bring Lime Goza. Nice. And Counterpoint Brown, which is one we've done a few times. And then also a double IPA. That we haven't released yet, being released tomorrow.
Oh, very good. Thank you. Yeah. You're just, I guess, in your second year now of being at Counterpoint.
That's
and
right.
In the first year of being a new brewery, how do people find you? Like, we were talking about how you're in this location, in this kind of this busy area, right? Part of Kitchener where Victoria meets Frederick Street. Mm-hmm. And how is it that, are there people out there that are looking for new breweries? And
are they coming specifically to find you in that corner?
Yeah, a bit of both. I would say most of our traffic is through either searching for new breweries or breweries in the area.
Word of mouth.
Exactly. Beer tourism, word of mouth, that kind of thing. Yeah, absolutely.
So you're on like a beer tour, or people plan their beer tour?
They just plan. Say, hey, we'll hit up this town today or this city, and what are the breweries in the area, that kind of thing. So I would say the majority now, are word of mouth referrals, which is really, really cool because it just means that our customers like our beer. So
and they're talking about it to their friends.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, for sure. Otherwise, I mean, we really just started off with our website, social media. It's a handful to get a handle and continue to handle all the social media outlets and Google business and all that sort of stuff. So
I hear you.
Yeah, definitely. But it's a lot of work. But it's I think right now that is what gets attention.
That's where the people are.
That's where everybody's looking to see. I feel like unless you have it, you're not like a accredited business. Like
I think it's your website's beautiful, but I actually think at this point it's more important to have an Instagram account than a website or Facebook page or all the things that people used to swear by.
Yeah, I think the website's good for credibility, and it gives a home base
and
to
somewhere
everybody.
to order from and all that stuff. I know
Yeah.
you can do
Yeah.
Insta shops and stuff. It's just a little more complicated.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, just to keep people up to date, it's, just punching out pictures and tweets and
Yeah.
all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And it's proven, it's designed to be addictive. So
Yeah, and the good thing is it's free for us,
Yeah.
right? Which is cool. So
for now.
When I look at, like, let's say I go onto your website and you have maybe 4 beers on tap, is that the right number?
I think there's 4. Oh, sorry, I don't work there.
Maybe there's
I
more.
was looking myself.
Not sure.
Good.
Maybe
Yeah.
I think there's 4.
Well,
Yeah.
look,
you got this, Sarah.
and it looks beautiful. Like, there's these 4 beers lined
Mm-hmm.
up, all different colors and that. I understand how a stout gets its color, right? But what about other variations of beers? Like, sometimes there's this beautiful golden, looking beer that just, and other times it's a bit more orange. Where are those colors coming from that achieve that? Because that for me is a huge part of the appeal, is just how absolutely gorgeous these beers can look in glass.
Food coloring.
Yeah.
The majority of the color is going to come from your malt, and there's a huge range of different malts from the palest sort of Pilsner malt, which is pretty much what we use mostly in as our base malt, and then we'll kind of fine tune some color characteristics through the use of other malts.
So you were able to manipulate the color in some?
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure,
sometimes
yeah.
are you like you're aiming, like you're color designing?
Yes,
sometimes?
definitely,
Oh, okay.
definitely.
But at the same time, trying to keep that delicious flavor and mix of things going on that is true to what you've designed in your recipe.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah. Oh, that's
absolutely.
so
Yeah,
cool.
I mean, even flavor characteristics. The majority of, I'd say that the base flavor is going to come from the malt as well. So depending on give you a crash course. Did Rich give you a crash course on malt at all, or?
I don't know how much we talked. We talked a lot about hops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about
and
malt.
roasting hops for stout.
Right. Yep.
Is that right?
Or they come roasted. I think.
was Monday, guys.
We definitely try not to roast hops.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. What are we roasting for stout?
The malt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
well, then I
exactly,
guess we did
yeah.
talk malt.
Yeah.
Tell us
That's
more
all right.
about malt.
Whatever. I mean,
This
it's
will
just
be
one
cut
of those things. It's the mainly barley. There's other malt that we use as well as like malted wheat, malted oats, that kind of thing. But the biggest ingredient is going to be your barley, and in short, I mean, it's germinated, it's stalled, and then it's roasted to a certain point, and whether that's a quick roast to just to stall out the germination, so that we get all the nutrients that we can get from that, all the sugars that we can use, and then or it's roasted to a point, sort of more extreme point, which would be your black malt. Some call it chocolate malt. There's different brands, but ultimately that a small amount of that, even in a batch of beer, will make the beer dark, give it some roasty, toasty notes as well. So yeah, that'll lead you to your stouts, and then of course everywhere in between, like I said. So
Something I watched a show called On Tap on Rogers TV where they go around to
with
different
Andrew.
breweries. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I really love that show, and they'll get really scientific and talk to some expert about barley for like a 15-minute segment or something. But anyways, something I've heard a couple times now is a brewer will say, almost as soon as we get all set up, we've almost outgrown our space. Has that been the case with you, or is this a good fit? You know what I mean? Your space, and you're able to keep rolling along. It sounds like it can be frustrating where things are moving along well, and then you don't have the space to grow, I guess.
Yeah, the number one advice we got from other breweries was get as big a space as you can. So we kind of stumbled upon our location. It was sort of top end of our budget, bigger than what we wanted, but it was available, and they were willing to take in a brewery. And so we're lucky that in our second year we still feel like we've got room there. We don't have everything piled on top of each other, and we still have some room to grow if we wanted to. So we take advantage of it with ordering, let's say in bulk, when it comes to bottles or other materials, and we know that we've got room for pallets there. I think that when it comes time to get a bigger brew system, then we'll probably be encroaching into that space that we thought we had.
I don't know what all the equipment is called, obviously, but when you start out, I guess you look for used equipment even sometimes. I think I saw that's how Grand River Brewing started or something. It's just you get a space and you have to go find somebody's equipment. Is that how you guys started? Like,
yeah, luckily we started, and you know, we had a pretty tight budget when we were working on, you know, collecting our equipment. And really what it was our system is like a homebrew system, but just a little bit bigger. So we didn't have to really, we knew what we could spend, and we knew that it was available for that. So we didn't have to hunt too much or worry too much about that. The next stage up, I think will come into effect, and that'll take a lot more work to source, you know, collect quotes and really source some good equipment that we can trust, that, you know, maybe used, maybe not, but it'll be interesting to see when that comes.
Places are opening and closing all the time. And I mean, breweries have done really well in town, but when my dad was still alive years and years ago, that was his business. That he would tear apart restaurants that had closed down, or you know, diners or whatever, and tear them apart, bring all the equipment into the shop, clean it up, refurbish it, and then resell it.
Yeah, we I mean, you know, a lot of the stuff that we have sort of as accessories came from used restaurant shops and auction and that kind of thing. Brewing equipment is a little tough to come by, and then the other thing, it doesn't just go on the market, right? I mean, we recently had somebody reach out to us and say, "Hey, I thought of you guys because I'm upsizing my brewery. Thought you guys might be interested." Turns out it was, you know, the same size as our equipment. So, although it was nicer than our equipment, we weren't ready to spend money on the same size system. So, but you know, there's a lot of, another good thing about the connections between, you know, breweries is that, you know, it doesn't, you know, if somebody's thinking about you or another business, other friends, then the equipment's going to find a home.
There's always somebody to call.
Yeah, for sure. And if it does go on the market, it holds its value because it's, you know, the brewing industry is still growing, craft brewery industry.
It seems like it's a really efficient industry. Like, I mean, when I look at your website, I can tell you brew a beer and you sell it till it sells out. Like, there's no overstock.
Yeah. It's the joy of a small business as well, right? I mean, one of the good things about being our size during COVID was that our 98% of our sales are out at the front door. Customers walk in, you know, they buy beer, whether they drink, you know, in-house or take bottles or growlers to go. That's how we sell our beer. We did very few keg sales, and so when licensees closed, restaurants closed, we were lucky that, you know, we still have our customer base that still came right to us.
And I don't know if you're able to answer this. It's at what point does this start to work out? So I've noticed how Block 3 Brewing has maybe the Belgian and the Beast and Fickle Mistress in LCBO. I believe I've seen Descendants beer in LCBO. I'm not sure who else right now locally. Well, certainly Wellington's.
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
Yeah.
In Asante.
Yeah. Oh, right. And is that something you're aiming for, or have you in the beer store, or is
It's not on the radar at all, to be honest, right now.
Yeah.
A number of reasons. I'd say that the initial reason is it's just simply not possible for us based on our size.
You'd have to like shift and not serve those people that are coming to your door to be able to handle.
Yeah, I think we would
that type
need
of
to
order, right?
increase our capacity as well as just go for the LCBO as opposed to have that, you know, customer base through our front door. So, and so that's the part that's not really appealing to us. There's so many reasons, you know, whether it's storage of the beer or handling of the beer, you know, they determine the price of the beer, and you can't change, you know, you can't sway from that even if you're selling it in your own shop. So there's many reasons for that.
Or I think about something like Bo's Lug Tread it's in the LCBO, it's in the beer store, and it's in the grocery stores. Like, that must be.
I always forget beers in the grocery store.
That must be a whole other level. That must be a whole new level when something like Bo's is now in the grocery store. Now people are putting it in their shopping cart, and I don't know what that brewery looks like. I've never been to it, but it must be on another level to be able to.
Yeah, they're a big brewery for sure. And that's it, right? I think it's really great that those options are there. It's just not in our scope for now. Yeah.
Future goals.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, even then, right? I mean, you lose so much control in it. And I think it's probably the natural evolution of a business is to grow. And I think, you know, eventually we have to figure out at what stage do we want to stop and maintain, or do we just go crazy
just keep going with the community that you have? Yeah.
Well, I mean, we love our customers. They're so important to us, and then that relationship with them is so great. And I think it would be great, you know, as a business, and of course numbers wise, sell as much beer as possible. But for us, it's so fun to be on a small scale. You know, we can create crazy recipes and we don't have to worry about selling 1 billion liters of it to
Right.
the LCBO. We can, you know, sell a small batch, you know,
And have that control.
yeah.
What does it feel like when people ask you what you do and you tell them?
I don't know. It's pretty cool.
It's cool, right?
Yeah,
like,
it's fun.
I'm an astronaut.
It's
What do you
still-
do? Right? Like,
No
you've
big
got
deal.
the dream job.
I make beer. Yeah, no, it is really neat. And I sometimes have to remind myself of that because it is still, I think
work,
like anybody,
so.
it is work and it's a lot of work. There's 2 of us. So we do absolutely everything, you know,
Mm-hmm.
it is a factory technically. And that's one of the things that comes up, you know, when you're looking for a space for brewing, you have to find a place that is zoned for manufacturing and retail. And of course there's all the behind the scenes stuff. So yeah, but overall it's pretty cool.
It's pretty sweet. Tell people, yeah, for
Absolutely.
sure.
And I just have to remind myself when I'm, you know, running QuickBooks and I get to sip on my double IPA. Or
Yeah. QuickBooks.
Yeah.
No offense, QuickBooks.
Yeah.
Do you guys still get time to play squash?
So we both had injuries
Oh,
from
no.
squash, actually.
Not
Funny
from
enough.
drinking.
And no, definitely not. And so we'd taken some time off and it just sort of ended up, you know, rolled into when we started the business and haven't taken it up. So
I've been there. Not with squash, but other
yeah.
physical
I'd like
activities.
to take some, need to get out there and get active. Counterpoint's been a pretty cool, like, you know, like we've said a bunch of times, it's very cool, but, you know, pretty big dream. And it's really neat to be able to share the story and share the beer with our community. And yeah.
Hey all, thanks for meeting us in Bonn Park. Please like, rate, and subscribe to our podcast on the platform that you're listening to. And follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Bonn Park Podcast. Original music by Alan Lung.